Hello and okay. I don't want to be greeting. Good morning, good afternoon. Have a good life. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I did it again. All right. Welcome to another edition of Live Conversations with Victor James. And of course, today is, you already know what we have to speak about. I had a lot of topics to discuss, but I had to move this forward because, well, love is the greatest of all. And before you tune out because you feel like you are not in love with anyone, you have to wait. Do you love your mom? You don't have a mom. Do you love your dad? You don't necessarily love your dad. You have a sibling, right? Or do you have a friend that you love? It's impossible for you not to love yourself, at least. So in that case now, everybody, this is for everybody. Everybody can and will benefit from this podcast. Welcome once again, and thanks to everybody that shared the last episode when I had my younger sister around. That was important, and I think this new episode stems from that because one of the emphasis she made about her struggle when she was in school, university, when she was failing, was that our brother, and parents and sisters, we were there for her. Of course, the love between me and her is quite strong. But the first person that I ever lent full true love, I have to clarify, full true love was my mom. And this is not a cliche like most people, talk about how you love your mom. I know the moment. I still remember. So you were trained up. Of course, I've mentioned it several times in the past podcast that trained up generally the way typically people are trained up in my time. Yeah, your dad would come home at night. Your mom is the one who's usually present. So I was left on my own most times, independent, run errands, then left on my own to play ball, mix with friends and such. So eventually, I became a student. I think when I was rounded off from secondary school, I just realized that my mother was becoming the main reason. So maybe it has to do with psychological development of a boy child or teenagers generally. But I began to feel like, this my mother has been present in my life. When I say present, I don't mean like present in terms of attending. I mean, she has been actively present. She looked after me a lot. And according to rumors, when I was growing up, I was the one that cried the most, especially amongst my three siblings. Let's say my first two sisters and myself. I was the one that cried the most, and the one that clung to her the most. Said, according to rumors, which some might believe, I was always refusing to follow people. And when my mom was not around, I would just be crying. So I was attached to her even before my brain was fully developed. So eventually, when I became older to understand things, again, like I mentioned before, my mom was the one who took me to my primary school the first day. And when I wanted to write the WAEC for secondary school, it was my mom who came around too. I remember seeing her through the windows of the class in SS3. And she now brought the money. I think it was 5-6, if I remember correctly. She brought the money, which was a lot of notes, and wrapped in a liner and gave me, which I handed over to the school authority. So she has always been there. So it was very apparent in my soul that I love my mom. Honestly, it was in SS3. It became quite apparent that there is a love here for my mom, and it was strong. I'm talking, and I was about 15 years old, 16 years old, 17. So, but a memory I'd like to share was when I was resuming university, and I remember that I was in school one day, and I looked at my wrapper, what's my cover cloth. It was my mom's cloth. It was the row. part of her attire, traditional attire. She just sacrificed it. I don't know why that stood out for me, and generally, even till now, little gestures seem to stand out a lot in my mind for years. Uh, yeah, so she gave that up. Maybe even people do that. Maybe parents generally do that, but for me, it felt special because I fed this one of her clothes. So that clothes is more or less condemned. She can't wear only the blouse, of course. So she gave up that. She gave up that garment wrapper, and then I used it. I used that wrapper for 4 years. I think I used it to graduate and when I was doing my NYC. So it was like a piece of my mom was always with me all through my university days, and she would call every time to check up. So there is, I think that the thing about love is that once someone shows it, after a while, you realize that you have no choice but to love them back. It becomes too apparent and too continual and too consistent for you to ignore. I think that has happened. Or maybe I'm wired differently, but I think that most people are showing you true love. And now I have to clarify that this love is not one burnout of the need to get something in return, but just because you want to show that person that you love them. I think that once that is fulfilled, you are able to return the love to the person, even if you do not consciously realize that you are doing that. So if you look back, how many people, the people you love is because maybe they love you too, then you have to return it. And it's the same too if you want to love somebody, you want someone to love you, just show them love. And love usually is almost inseparable from kindness and sacrifice. Somebody calls and say, sorry, I'm stranded at night, somewhere that they can't move, they can't do something. And then suddenly they saw that you had find a way to go and meet them, to keep them company so that it will be helpful for both of you to get out of that place together. They didn't have to. Everybody wants to sleep at night, but the sacrifice to say, okay, don't worry about this. I would in this world where every one of us we are quite self-motivated, which increases our productivity anyway. But on the flip side of that is that it robs us of connecting with people. So yeah, I think that gave rise to the love I had for my mom. Then when my younger sister also came into this world, it was very strong. Of course, maybe I don't know. I can't explain that part of my younger sister. I can't explain how it began, but I just knew that this one is like my life. So both of them were pillars. So I need to clarify this, that because I began to recognize love quite early, it was easy for me to live that life. I could see I was always ready to love people. I could it was retrospect that gave me this clarity now. I didn't have this understanding before until maybe the past 5 years when I began to dabble into some psychology. I now understood that it's because I had received a lot of love and I've learned to show it from the way I became a young man. It became the hallmark of my life. It is me now. I can't do things without love. I don't know. There are a lot of people that can do it, and maybe that I'm not saying it as a way of boasting. I'm saying it as a manner of something that not necessarily always advantageous for me, because sometimes you need to do things out of just doing them, maybe out of necessity or out of compulsion. I say just eat that frog. But for me, it's always love. Do I love this? Do I love to do this? Do I love this person? And it's not that good too, because it means therefore that sometimes if I don't feel some form of way to people, I don't necessarily relate with them that much. Whereas if I feel some affection for you, you would know, because I will be singling you out for attention, for kind words. It just happens that way. And in many instances, people don't need to even do much. I would just find that well, I have affection for this person. Somebody just a lady who just bears the first name of my mom. Because that's it. That's it. From that time, I just felt wow. I just felt that I have affection for this person and I want her to do well, and I, began to do a lot to make her smile. But please, this is not romantic. Like I've said, love my mom, my younger sister, my friends. That's not romantic love now. So I don't want us to always box love into romance. That's why I feel the world is bereft of a lot of love now, because it's been emphasized through film, through novels too. We have emphasized romantic love so much that every kind of love seems to dwarf in comparison. But I don't think the world should work that way. I think everyone should be able to, express love, whatever form, and to whoever. So many persons now, they've told their maybe somebody they like, I mean romantic interest now, I love you, I love you, I love you. But the number of times they've told their parents, for example, is very few, if at all. But if your parents are about 60 and above, they need that affirmation more now. It means more to them, to their old art, now that they are old, and they should express it too. But because of the bias towards romantic love, many of us have sort of left off talking about expressing other kinds of love. So, well, let me quickly talk about romantic love. So, it's surprising to me recently that my life, well, let's say love history, is quite different from most. Honestly, I thought everybody was like that, because I remember that I was in primary school when I knew that I had a crush, let's call it, for this person. I'm saying classmates, not people, classmates, primary school classmates. You know, you like this person, people will not be teasing you. You like her, you like her. Of course, now, saying the truth, I know that I like them, but I don't, what do you do with that? You are just, wow. So, yeah, just, I don't know. It's very, it's a complex thing in my head. I wish I can speak to a psychologist about it. Or is everybody like that? Because primary school, you are, what 9 years old? What do you have to do with liking somebody at that point? Maybe everybody's like that. Maybe it's because you don't talk about it. But yeah, I could list their names out till now. I'm careful because this is a public forum, but I can list their names out in primary school. About four, all of them are before me now. But I know the one that lasted. All these things. You like somebody 5, 6 months. Maybe that's why you should call it crush. Maybe say, oh yeah, you like Buki today. In the next 6 months, you move forward. You like Yinka, oh today. In the next, maybe by the end of that time, you've forgotten about Yinka. Now you like Febi. But it's that Febi that really stayed while I'm now mentioning names. Well, if anybody suits me, I will call you to come out raise front for me. Yeah, it's that maybe that sort of opened my eyes, to the fact that okay, this is, you really like somebody, because we're in primary 6, you feel like you like this person, and then my brothers and sisters, I have to say that the only thing that this girl ever did for me was smile. So we had a quiz competition under a tree in primary 6. Of course, by this time I was a leading academic student. So I was representing my class in a competition. She was in BAM. And then I know that if my classmates St. Michael Primary School, I'll get to listen to this now, they will just be laughing. But hey, okay, let's say it's all childhood innocence. Please don't judge me too much. Anyway, so we are sitting there. I'm in 6A. I'm doing that quiz with a partner. She was representing her class. I think yes, with our own partner. So I think we won the quiz. Of course, I'm there now. So she smiled at me. Was it he or B? I think she was in B or E. I think I forgot exactly the ham now. So she smiled. I see as I'm talking to you. So she has this kind of teeth where at the on the side, on the end of her lip, one teeth seems to be smaller than the rest, so there's a gap there. Yeah, sorry, I have a retentive memory. I think it comes with being a good writer. So yeah, she smiled, and I felt so wonderful. I was so happy that she could smile. And then I greeted her. I have to say, I mentioned in the previous podcast that I didn't even save any girls or ladies number until I was in 100 level, where it was just one person, my church member, Sarah. So, phones just came out too, of course, when I was wrapping up my secondary school. So I didn't see people's number until maybe almost graduation. Maybe you would count the few number, maybe 10 to 15 people who had their number, who were girls. I'm saying girls now, maybe ladies, opposite gender, let's say. So when Feby smiled at me, it was I just said on to that. So you know that these were simpler times. There is no picture, there is no memory, there is no much memory even. Except what you have is memory. That's what I want to say. There's no picture, there's no phone, you can't get in touch. So, we finished primary school and we departed. I went to boys only secondary school. So I could not see her again. But every time I knew where our house was in Rose Street. So anytime I was going to church, I would deliberately pass the longer route, which would pass the front of our house. I would be going to Monday Bible study, to church. I remember that when I finished from school, from my secondary school, by the time I return home, we need to go to church. We pass the front of the house. I would always wave. I would always be looking and hoping that I'll see her sitting in the front of their house. Yeah, I remember the house now. So I was lucky once or twice where I saw her, and it's all just a wave. She would wave at me. He will smile again, that toothy smile. Yeah, and then I would wave back. That's it. For the next 2 months, I may not have the fortune to say in front of the house. I will just be passing it every Monday, trying to hoping that I would see her. So I remember then that when I now entered secondary school, Phoebe went to school with my friend Dapo, who were staying in the same house. So they were in the same school. So I now wrote a letter. I remember this. So this was maybe I was in GSS 2 then. I wrote a letter. Now, if you are saying someone writes a letter, it's not a love letter. No. No, it's not. It's nothing like that. It's just a letter. So I wrote, "Dear Feby, I'm happy to write this letter to you. I wanted to ask about academic. I was in GSS 2. So I gave Dakpo, my best friend at that time. We were staying in the same house, to deliver the letter to her in their school, and he did. God bless him. So the best part of this memory, which stood with me for a long time, was that she replied, and then she started with "Dear Victor," and then answered the question. It was just a normal letter, just yes, the school is doing well, but I think you should understand too that this was 2003, and therefore even the fact that somebody wrote a letter to you, I think it was a great gesture, and to some people still a great gesture even till now. So to her, I guess it was a great gesture, and she wrote back. But you know what I did? I didn't want my parents, of course, to find that letter, so I had to dispose of it. But I tore out the rest of the letter, and I kept that part that said "Dear Victor." I think I shewed the paper at the end of the day. You have to understand that love will make you foolish, and I think that or let's say seemingly foolish, not necessarily in actual fact foolish. So that happened. Even till now, I think that if you want to work upon a marriage, even if you are 70 years or 60 years or 30 years, you must understand that you will do things that are not necessarily they make sense, but that's wisdom. And romance is not necessary. It's not something to be judged by logic always. I'm a logical person, but I try to keep that part out of my life when I'm thinking romantically. So you cannot argue. Why would a flower mean something to anybody? It's not. They are not going to eat it. They are not going to. It's not going to give them long life or sand earth. So why would it mean something? But it would mean something because it is romantic. not necessarily because of anything else. So it's not logic. Anyway, I shoot that paper at Dear Victor. Because before tuning, I think I end up to it. I put it in my books. I was carrying it about until it now began to feed, or I was maybe very afraid that one day somebody would find out and ask me who was writing Dear Victor to me. So I chewed it at the end, and then again, I digested the love, let's say. But that was the last contact I had with Femi. The next time I saw her was, at that time I was now in university, I had moved past the entire crush. So I saw her, I was in the taxi. She was at the back of a motorcycle. And I called from inside the taxi. I called out, Febi. So she waved. She smiled, that same smile, man. That smile. And then she waved back. You know that one of the best things that I'm grateful to God for in my life is like sometimes I feel like it's a movie. Things that would happen in a movie and happened to me from university, from secondary school, even till recent years, Anyway, yeah, so yeah, I think that's about her. And so she left. But I know around that same time of a GSS class, I now liked somebody in my church. Of course, that time now I was starting like somebody that we never talked until I was in NYC. We never talked. I just knew that I was signing this, of course, in youth camp. I'm sure many of my listeners will relate to this. Somebody, you do camp meetings for youth once in a year, maybe twice in a year, let's say twice in a year. So you are looking forward to every April and every December, Easter and the end of the year retreats. So you would see her at the end too. Seeing her there, it's not as if I didn't speak with her, but I could see her from afar. And that was very satisfactory for me. Just seeing that she was alive and she's living. I can't mention this one's name is too. I beg. Anyway, so because I don't think she's aware till today, I beg, everybody has moved on now. She's married too. So yeah. Anyway, so I don't know. It's too long, honestly, from just two. So in fact, I was still in school. And I could still see that I still like this person. Someone that I never talked to. So in 2013, I was now in Ibadan. I was a copper at that time. I was in Ibadan for a congress, and I saw someone that I'd always known since about JSS2. Yeah, for the period of JS2, maybe for the period of 10 years. Yeah, 2013, I now saw her. I went for a congress in Ibadan, campground of my church, and I now saw her again. Now, I just knew that by the time, come on, man, I'm a graduate now. She was a university student then in the Southwest. I only attended the congress because I was serving in Osun State. So it was for corpus and university students. So I saw her and I knew that I would need to speak with her this time. It was not possible. After 10 years, having been in the background, Aina for 10 years, come on, I had to speak with her. So I walked up to her and, hello, good afternoon. She answered, said, hi, I'm Victor, do you know me? From Akure. She said, I don't think she did that. So she recognized me. She was quite shy. So I'm sure she's not shy anymore now. Or maybe she didn't know me. Maybe I'm just trying to cope with the fact that I spent 10 years pining away as somebody who couldn't recognize me. But I shook hands and went by. I was happy, but by this time now I had grown and life has slapped me once or twice. I had become a bit stronger and not innocent. I was still innocent. I am still innocent, I think, in a large part now. But at that point, not really. The innocence the innocence of when it was Fabi is different from this time. So after the handshake and the greeting, she just smiled. She greeted me back, but that was it. That was it really. And I think that ended it. Eventually, I saw her elsewhere every now and then, but I don't think we talked again to the end. So again, I'm sharing this story because there's been a lot of people. In fact, as I'm talking about this story, I'm remembering several like that. I had they made my life sweet. Yeah, even though we're not necessarily talking, I felt like life was beautiful because their memory was in my head. Their picture, a picture of them, and the sweet feeling, that you like this person. So yeah, but it's been my story, throughout when I was in secondary school, in university to on campus, finishing school and getting here. So I've always tried to emphasize love, to emphasize it and to show it. I think that I can say that those who know me will know that I do my best to show that I love somebody. And that's the point of this podcast today. I don't think we should continue to, say we are loving somebody secretly, which was what I did in many instances because I was young then and I had no capability to express those whatever I was feeling. But by now that you have grown older, responsibly, you can still be able to show that you love somebody because you know that it is a blessing for them to see that they receive the love, the beauty of life that I got from the fact that I loved somebody and they were able to as small as smile back at me or shake hands with me. Those meant a lot for my, it was good for my mental health and well-being. And I was living life beautifully just because that was all. Someone could smile at you. Now imagine, we are still human till now. Imagine that you could go as far as talking to somebody, telling somebody what they mean to you. And again, I want to emphasize that we have to do this for our parents, to our moms, our dad, our siblings, and let them know, please. It's the point of this podcast, to let them know. Friends, let them know the value, they have great value in your eyes to your life. And of course, now romantic interest, you have no choice really than to show it. What is romance if it's not mutually a mutual exchange of expressions of love? You just have to show some level. You have to say it to them. You have to write them that letter. You need to let them know why would it be difficult to say that you love somebody, especially maybe I wanted to say as a woman before because I now wanted to not be too biased because I think men generally, a man shows interest generally, majority of the time, man shows interest in the woman rather. Therefore, the man must need to say that I love you. Even if it comes at a later time, but at least at the beginning, you know that you have affection or compassion. There is something, attraction to somebody for you to even say you want to be with them in the first place. So it's very likely that the man would need to say that he loves the woman, and it means a lot to women. But I need to clarify too that the woman should say that they love the man too, because it means a lot to the man. We are all humans, but for whatever reason, we have decided to split our humanity into two. Of course, I'm not saying men and women are the same. We are different in several regards, but something as basic as hunger, we feel it together. Something as basic as thirst, we feel it together. And sadness, emotions, we feel them together. Of course, we feel love together in the same measure, and if somebody's love language, what they emphasize as love, which that's the concluding part of this podcast now, is the emphasis on a language of love for each person. There are people who, I said before that there are little gestures that I just realized it, and you have to reflect on your own self, your past, your present, what makes you tick. You need to, it's important for self-awareness. A person that would be succeed and happy in this world, I have to say, especially in 2026, you must understand yourself. You may not fully understand yourself. I don't think anybody fully understands themselves, but you have great understanding of who you are, What makes you happy? What makes you sad? What do you prioritize most? It's important whether you want to sit down with yourself for 1 hour until you are able to write these things out. And it must be in order of priority. Because that's how, for example, I realized that small gestures matter to me a lot. There are some persons that I have gone far beyond for, but the whatever they did was not far beyond. It wasn't a big deal to them, at least, but it was a big deal to me. You know, let's say 20 people walked past me, and one person stops and holds my hand and says, "How are you doing?" I don't know. I may not forget that for 25 years. The fact that, you know, I did expect it. And people have done that. How are you coping with they heard this about you? How are you coping? I'm so sorry. Something like that. It matters. I don't know. It matters. I'm remembering now because someone did that. In a church service, maybe they heard that relationship did not work out, and then just stopped by when they saw me, and their face changed, and then they just shook my hands warmly and said, "How are you?" I of course, I like to make people laugh a lot. I yabbed them, I laughed, but I didn't forget that gesture. So yeah, I'm just saying that I understood. I noticed this small gesture thing by studying myself. You have to study yourself. What is the biggest deal to you? So yeah, that's it. And you know what I do? Because small gestures matter to me a lot. I try to do that small gesture to people. Just hold their hands. And just hold their hands and let them know that all will be well. Don't worry. Because it doesn't cost too much to do that. I remember that at somebody's birthday, I recall somebody's birthday, somebody wished another person a birthday, a mutual friend. My mind just picked it up that when I see this person today, I would go out of my way to go and meet them and wish them happy birthday, even though they didn't know me. Of course, they know of me, but we're not on speaking terms. So what I did that the person posted it on Facebook. Just because I went to meet them and I said, "Happy birthday," they were so moved that they posted it. I'm sure they won't forget. Because it meant something. And maybe all of us, maybe small gestures. I think little gestures mean a lot to all of us, really. When I talk about, maybe it's not a personal thing to me. It's human. You want consideration. You want people to consider you. You want people to show some value, to feel like you are valuable, really. Yeah. So maybe it's all of us. And but you need to now know what you fancy best. Whether it's words, whether it's service. But I need to also say that whatever love language, whatever way of expressing love that all of us have emphasized as ours, you need to show it. And all manner of love languages, whether they are 10 or 5 or whatever number, all of them means something to everybody. It's just the order of importance or weight of priority that differs. You cannot say somebody's love language, that seems very lazy to me. Somebody's love language is not gift, therefore you don't give them anything. Somebody's language is not service, therefore you don't do anything. That seems very selfish and cruel. Everybody, whatever way you have heard and seen that somebody can express love, if there are 1,000 ways, you need to express love in that 1,000 ways. Please, let's be less selfish. I think that's a wrap. Yeah, we can conclude here, right? Yeah, I think we can. Thank you so much. I believe you have enjoyed this episode, and especially to reflect on your own self and make a decision to try as much as possible to show little gestures more. It means the world to people, especially people that hold you in high regard. And if you claim that you love anybody, come on now, you have to let them know as often as you can, because the life journey is quite short. You cannot always make an excuse for yourself and your busy schedule and say that is why you were not able to go some extra mile every night. If somebody is very, very close to you, extra mile is important. But for acquaintances, you need the little gestures. It's okay. God bless you, and have a loving life ahead and a lovely weekend. Okay, I'm saying this weekend because I recorded this close to a weekend, but really, have a lovely day, have a lovely life, and I love you, and I hope you love me too.